It's going to calibrate things that are right for you, because if you are honoring yourself and accepting yourself, like honoring what you need and accepting yourself for who you are, all these things, your energy is going to then have no choice but to call in the things that also are going to reinforce that, because you are calibrated to this energy now of what is really good for you because it feels really good. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, the human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Today we're diving into
the G Center, and more specifically, how it helps you find direction and operate really as it's meant to operate, as a magnetic monopole to bring in the things that you're looking for.
Bring on the monopole.
It's probably the most detailed description I've given of what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Well, couldn't decide, because we've gone over the centers a little bit, but I couldn't decide what I wanted to do first, digging into the centers. But I think G Center's a good one because it helps. G Center. Do you remember what the G Center?
That's one that's all about, is that the one that's about love and like knowing yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love, identity, and direction, like where you're supposed to go, literally, physically, and just, in life. And I want to talk about it because I think a lot of people probably that are listening, one of the reasons they're listening is that they are possibly looking for their own sense of direction or reevaluating who they are. Oh, you're raising your hand. You don't even,
myself included.
Well, listen to the podcast, Haley. I mean, you might go back and hear something that you didn't hear while we were talking about it.
I probably should.
It's okay. You don't have to. But so yeah, trying to find out what it is they're maybe here to do, or one also cool thing about the G Center is it plays a big role in the hot button topic these days of manifesting. Ooh. And which I'm down with that. It's a fun topic to talk about, of using the power of your own self, your mind, your emotions to bring into your awareness that what you want. And the G Center has a lot to do with that in your energetic system. Yes, because it holds the monopole.
I was going to say it's because it's a monopole.
It's a monopole.
It's attracting the things.
That's right. A monopole only attracts. So it means it only is bringing stuff to you, right? But it is possible for your monopole to maybe not function as well as it could.
It gets dirty.
Well, but yeah, if you get off track or you're not quite living the fullest expression of these energies that we're going to talk about, then it kind of gives the signal out there of either attracting things that are different options. Like if you're confused about what you want, you might, depending on what you're informing the quantum field with of what you think you want, or all these things, then it can get a little confusing. But it's never repelling anything, because it's a monopole. Like you hear a lot about people saying, well, I'm blocking this or I'm blocking that, like they feel like they're physically blocking, so they're actually repelling things. I mean, there could be a little bit of a block, but there is no like repelling nature of your energy, I don't think. You could be more aligned with things, but I don't think you actually cause things to like run away from you. I don't think. I mean, that's just my thought. But anyway, so your G Center really tells you a lot about how it is you're supposed to find your way, how to find your sense of direction in life. There's 8 gates in the G Center. And so there's 8 different themes, and really the 8 different archetypes, the story of what we as human beings need to feel loved, feel good, accepted for who we are. And
Okay.
so the G center also shows us how to increase those things, which then helps us pull in the things that we want, as we said, and give us the direction we're supposed to go. It's the source of, for all of us, whether it's defined or undefined, it is your source of your sense, excuse me, not source, your own sense of lovability. Now, I know you're going to ask. So, so as far as the population goes, 50% defined, 50% undefined.
Oh,
So it's a pretty
nice
even split.
even split there.
hmm So for me, well, and what's interesting is the G center is actually what in the chakra system we call it the heart's chakra. So the G center and the will center, some people call it the ego center, I call it the will center. Although last couple times I was talking about it on something, I called it ego center. I never call it that, but I did. So I don't know why. So those two centers are really part of the heart. It's interesting because this part of it is really, like I said, it's about lovability, our identity, and what we are here to pursue in life. And then the other part of it kind of split off into the more material in action kind of things of following the heart. So that's a little too much. But anyways,
I
sorry.
thought it was interesting.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. Where was I going with that original thought? G center. Oh, one question that comes up a lot is why is it called the G center? And I asked this question and I thought I was going to get an answer, but there really isn't an answer. So that's one of those things that just
Is that what the
great
voice
mystery.
the was it the voice?
Yeah.
Is that what you referenced it as?
The voice, yeah. So I like to say I've heard it referred to as because it's like the God center. It's like connected to our divinity, which I kind of like that because it is about love. And so with half of us defined and half undefined, that's what I was going to say. To me, it shows that this is another area in the chart where we're really learning how to really use the energies here effectively, because a lot of us are defined and then some of us that aren't are learning it in different variable ways from the rest of us who can kind of show our more consistent ways of experiencing some of these energies. Now, I think especially in the G center, even though you're defined or undefined, I think there can still be conditioning if you're defined as well, because it is so
Yeah.
tightly closely to who you are. And if you feel
hmm
you're loved for who you are, if you're
Yeah.
defined, because you can't really change that. Now we have experience here. You are undefined and
Yes.
I am defined.
Yes.
So these things that we're going to talk about will be applicable to everyone, whether you're defined or undefined. The only thing to remember is that if you are defined, any of these gates, if you're defined in any of these gates, you're just going to have a more consistent way of probably experiencing some of these things, but you can still work with focusing on these energies if you're wanting to maybe shift or change your circumstances. And if you're undefined, you can explore lots of different ways of how you want to experience these gates, depending on, you'll feel it around other people, or if you just kind of focus on what comes to you in that day or whatever environment you're in. Because with the undefined G, what really informs you the most, do you remember?
No.
Okay. For an undefined G, what informs the most is environment, like your actual physical environment. So
Oh.
it helps you find your direction in that way, because wherever you are physically, if it feels good to you, like if you feel comfortable, you feel, safe there, it feels good, then you're probably in the right place because the right people will be there. If it feels off, it means it's not really place you need to worry about or be. It doesn't mean it's dangerous. It just means like there's
It's not quite
um
right.
not quite right, and whoever's in that environment isn't really going to be, I guess, helping you on your journey. You can kind of just, well, let's not waste my time here.
Well,
That's
I'm
bare
moving on.
bones. Yeah, that's the bare bones about it.
Okay.
But what's interesting here is that in the G Center, because it deals with not just direction, love, but with identity, we can really figure out, how am I trying to say this? Our ultimate guide to what's correct for us is really how much capacity we have for love and acceptance of ourselves. Because whatever um, our highest expression of our identity is also going to be really a high expression of love for yourself. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Well, I mean, let's look at it this way. It's going to calibrate things that are right for you, because if you are honoring yourself and accepting yourself, like honoring what you need and accepting yourself for who you are, all these things, your energy is going to then have no choice but to call in the things that also are going to reinforce that, because you are calibrated to this energy now of what is really good for you because it feels really good. And so, because that monopole only attracts, that means it's going to attract more of what is good for you and is,
Hmm.
you, as much as you're willing to accept for yourself, the G center.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's one of those areas where I'm like, oh, I think even I'm getting lost. But seriously, sometimes things just start rolling and I don't know what I'm saying. So, I think that's that 43-23 sometimes. So I just, that's
Is
why I
that the
stop
freak
and
to
say,
genius?
or genius to freak,
Genius to.
because I, don't know sometimes if that's coming out right. Okay. So a little bit more about the undefined G, talking about being in the right place with the right people. It's because, remember, if you're undefined there and that, or even completely open, you are taking in and amplifying other people's
Hmm.
energies in that
Right.
environment. So that's why if it doesn't feel good, you might not, you got to really learn to start trusting how your body feels, which is what human design is all about. Um, but sometimes with the open G, they can tend to, if they're not aware of who they really are, like what is them and what's not them, is take on the identities of those around them. And not like you totally lose your identity, but in the sense that the girl that, loses herself in every relationship, or
Hmm.
the person that's always morphing for the different friend groups and then never
Or if
really.
you're not really sure if they're actually your opinions or someone else's opinions.
Exactly, yeah, because um it can make you confused about who you really are if you, one, aren't aware of it, and two, aren't, paying attention. You do have to, cultivate your own sense of self, which is really what the undefined G is here to be wise about. They're here to really sample all those different ways of being and ways that people feel about it, because the open G can, or undefined, I gotta quit using the word open because that's different. Undefined means not defined, but could still have some gates activated, whereas
Open means
open
there's
means
nothing.
nothing. Yeah, there's no gate
Okay.
activations or anything. So I got to be careful about that. So the undefined G, it could be confusing if you're not really aware of what is yours and what's not yours. Really, it's important for the open G at times to maybe have some time alone so they're not around other people, and paying attention to how it is they feel when they are out of auric contact with other people, and then how they feel different when they are around other people. So the undefined G is here to learn from others what it means to love the self, accept yourself as you are. They may question their own lovability and may adapt and change who they are because they think that will make them more lovable. But that's the piece where, when they're sampling all these different identities of people, because they can really feel how other people feel about themselves and what they think about themselves, when they are here to learn that, they can realize that they don't have to change who they are in order to be loved, because all of us are here for a purpose. We don't have to earn our purpose. We don't have to demonstrate our purpose. We have a purpose because we're here, and we are valuable because we are here, because we exist, and we are lovable because we are here, because we exist. So it's really, I think, for an open G, a lifetime of that, of sampling all these different ways that that could play out, and then just being solid in themselves, even with all that variability. So, one note on how do you know if you're in the right place? Well, I mean, like we said, it's how you feel. But what if,
Hmm.
people are, well, that's great. It sucks here, but how do I know where to go? And
Yeah.
so there's different ways you could do that. There's something called astrocartography, which is really, really cool.
Sounds like star mapping.
Well, sort of, it's like earth mapping. It's these people, it's astrologers that have trained in astrocartography, and they basically help you find place on the earth that um they line up the energy of different ley lines on the planet with like where you were born, like so
Yeah, you've
wherever.
told me a bit about this before.
Yeah, and I've tried looking at it, and it's so complicated. You definitely have to train, and I think, okay, I'm going to stay in my lane here, and I'm not going to try and figure that one out. Maybe
Stay
if I was a
in your
manifesting
lane.
generator, I would, but I'm a generator. So, but it's really cool to see because it'll show you like a line on the map of this is your Saturn line or this is your Venus line. So a lot of people have had a lot of trouble in their lives or struggling with this or that, might find that they were living in a place that was where their Saturn placement was, which is Saturn is all about your
Dang it,
lessons and
Saturn.
challenges. Yeah. So, so if you're really struggling with that and you've maybe moved many places and you're just like, I don't even want to have to experiment again, you could always get a reading done by someone with astrocartography. Um, and then another note is that if you think you do know where you want to maybe, and this is, we're talking about living situation here, but if you feel like you do know where you want to go, it'd be really important if you have an undefined G to try and go there first before you pick up your whole life and move. Like, spend a little time there and really see how you actually feel, like literally in the area where you think you would move to, because you might be surprised. What's in your head might make sense, and then you get there and it's doesn't feel good. But then you'll try
Should
to
really try
rationalize.
that.
Yeah. Then you'll rationalize like, but this makes sense. I should be here. How do you feel where you live now? I
I
mean, in
mean,
Charleston.
in Charleston, yes. In our actual apartment complex location, no, because it sucks.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
Well, like I love like where it actually is being on the water like it is. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But then 526
Mm.
is horrendous.
Yeah.
And to get to either Charleston or Mount Pleasant, you have to get on a bridge. And then half the time that bridge is jam packed because it's the
Mm-hmm.
only way to get around.
I feel your pain on that one. I mean, I don't have as much traffic here, obviously, but when you do have to go over a
So not
bridge to
just
get
on
anywhere.
bridges. Yeah, it's annoying.
Okay, so definitely check out where you live. I mean, where you think
Yeah,
you want to go live before you
right.
get there, to see how it actually feels to be there. And then if it's just not possible for you to like pick up and leave where you live, because that's really a luxury for a lot of people to just be able to move, um, try to make your environment that you live in your home. Mix things up. Try moving things around, placing furniture in different places, maybe bring some plants in, just do things in your own environment that could maybe shift it. Heck, you could even try something as doing a little sage cleaning in your apartment or your house. Leave the doors open one day, let it air out. There's lots of things you could try change the environment that you live in if you can't actually move somewhere. So that's important. So not only living, but jobs, things like that. If things don't feel good, it's really time to evaluate, one, if you have a undefined G, what it is that's actually, if it's just time to go, or if it's just maybe that just the building sucks. I don't know. Okay. But getting a little far down this. So if you have a defined G, you're going to feel a lot more fixed in your direction and have a more consistent self, a sense of self and who you are in the world. And a lot of times people with defined G's may actually feel like they have a mission in life. There's lots of things, lots of markers in your chart that can lead to that. I think we all do. But as far as feeling like you have this mission, because from my experience, you can kind of tap into this sense of knowing what's right for you and not what's not right for you. For me, it's kind of hard to explain. I think I've said before, I don't know if we said it before, that I can't necessarily tell you, this is who I am, but I can tell you who I'm not. Like if you try to put labels in me and things that don't apply to me, I definitely know that's not me.
You're like, no.
And if you try to make that me, it doesn't work well. And well, I don't mean like I'm some kind of bastion of, strength that you can't change me. I mean, we all get molded and conditioned, right?
Hmm.
To believe that maybe who I am isn't right. Because if it's ever bumped up against somebody else that either it felt like too much for them, then you might, try to think, well, what's wrong with me? Well, nothing. You just are who you are. And so defined G's can struggle with that sense of, is it okay to be me? And sometimes they tend to hide who they really are because they can't change it. Undefined G's, you can change whatever you want. Defined G's, we could try, but ultimately we are who we are. And
Yes.
so defined G's can also be rather sensitive to criticism, especially if they're not if it's the only connection, but if there is a connection that defines the G to the throat, because that means that when that person speaks, they're speaking from their heart. They're speaking from
Mm,
their identity of who they are. So when they speak, it's very personal to them. And if they are criticized, it feels incredibly personal to
right.
the person who's defined through one of the channels to the G. So just some little tidbits. So let's move on to really get an idea of this monopole thing and how it all
Hmm.
works. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to things we covered in episode 2,
Oh God.
our flagship episode there of just jumping in the deep end. So
We
you
came in
remember
hot and heavy.
you remember the talk about the design crystal and the personality crystal? You remember talking
Yes.
about it? Okay.
Yes.
So this is really the short synopsis of how the system says it works in our physical form.
Okay.
Okay. So the voice said that at conception, actually 8 hours before conception, the design crystal, which is going to be that side of your chart on the left, the red, those energies represented there. He said they're not actual crystals. It's just the easiest thing for our human brains to hold some kind of imagery with, I guess. Um, they say that those design crystals are just there in the earth, just waiting to get called forth. And so the energy of the father, right before conception, calls forth this design crystal, which is basically the vehicle of the human to be. And the design crystal holds the codes, they say, of the life story and life purpose for the physical body. So it's like the energy template of who you're going to be in the human story. This is where the epigenetics are, all these themes. What?
I forget what the epigenetics is.
The epigenes, those are the things where those are the markers that can influence your DNA. It doesn't change your DNA, but like how your genes are expressed. We were talking about like the
So
Holocaust
like yeah, okay. Yeah.
victims, children, and stuff like that.
Right.
So
They were chunkier.
these are past traumas, family, generational things, all that stuff. But it's
Okay.
the life purpose, the design side really is the physical vehicle of what you're pulling forth. And so that is in the design crystal. And then at the same time, it says it also calls in this magnetic monopole that only attracts, and it takes up residency energetically in the heart center, in the
Okay.
G center, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that magnetic resonance field. And it's the a unifying energy, which have you ever looked at any of this stuff about heart resonance, like Heart Math
Mm-mm.
Institute, any of that stuff? It's
No.
crazy. They say you put a group of people in a room together over time,
Uh-huh.
they're um, basically the field, the electrical field around their hearts will all start to resonate at the same frequency. Like things start kind of
They
syncing up
sync
because
up.
yeah, it's like the tuning forks, that doom, if you get them all, they'll all eventually. It's so crazy.
Oh.
There's some really interesting stuff out there about the magnetic um, field around the heart, which is pretty much a monopole. It's attracting. Um, and so there's that monopole, there's the design crystal that wants to attract into our life, which is what we're here to do in this lifetime. Okay.
Okay.
So the design crystal takes up residence in the ajna. And then remember, that is 88 degrees or roughly 88 days before you're born. And
Which
then,
is the unconscious,
yes, it'll be on the left side, your chart,
the
all those
red,
numbers in red.
right? Yes.
And then at birth, your soul drops into the head center, which has the codes of your soul purpose, which is the personality crystal. Correct. And so,
So, so the design you said was the life purpose of the vehicle, the body,
mhm,
and then the personality is the whatever you just said it was.
soul purpose.
Soul purpose.
So if you think about it, it's like, okay, they're not separate. A lot of people like to sometimes take the two apart and say, well, if you look at my chart, just my design unconscious side, I'm a projector, but if on this side I'm a generator, and how does that work? And it's like it doesn't. There's no separating them, because remember, these are all within you. They're layers for sure, but really it's that design side, the life purpose. That's the vehicle that your soul has chosen at this time, going to use this form to experience itself in this lifetime, basically. And so your personality side is the side, that they say the you that you think is you. But basically, I heard it expressed, which I thought was brilliant, is that your soul is just so vast. We can't even comprehend how much there really is to us in the quantum, in this, not in this physical form. And so your soul says, okay, I'm going to take these attributes with me at this time to learn about the things that I'm here to learn in this lifetime. So it's just
Which
pieces of you.
makes sense that it's in the head
Mm-hmm.
spot, since that's
Mm-hmm.
like your connection to
Mm-hmm.
source, Gus,
Close.
universe.
That's
I'm
right.
making hand motions.
Lots of them. Lots and lots and lots. Okay.
Oops.
So again, I think I've probably talked for a half hour before I even got to the meat of everything. So
We need the recap slash information
mhm,
before we can really delve into it.
yeah. So why this is when I said that this has a lot to do with the G center, with the manifestation, because it's all about the creative process. And so really there are people that in human design that want to just look at something on the chart called the variables, the arrows, like, oh, you're specific or non-specific manifester, which I guess you could do that if you want, but I looked at it for a while and it didn't really resonate with me. So
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of things in human design, I'm like, no, I'm not going to go with that, because it said, according to the arrows in my chart, I should be someone that's very specific about, what I want, which I don't necessarily operate that way. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I don't know. I've managed to manifest some things in my life that I wanted. So, okay, so think about it this way. So the creative process really starts in the mind with inspiration and possibility up in the head in the ajna, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's either inspiration received, the mind starts to create basically their it's light, like light starts going off in your brain, creating images and pictures in your brain as you receive this inspiration. And then what happens is there's an emotional response that begins right away with these thoughts. Now, your emotional response is going to be closely tied to your what we call filter, which is really your beliefs, your conditioning, whatever it is you think about certain things. Because
Mhm.
you say the word, I don't know, so it's one to think of something really like dog. You say dog to certain people, they get all warm and fuzzy. You
I
say
just did.
dog. You did. You smiled. You're like, oh, God. You think of all the love you have for your dog. And then you say same to another person, and they have a very different emotional reaction to that
Hmm.
because their experience is either benign, they have no experience with dogs, they don't really care, or they've had a bad experience,
Yeah.
so how we've lived and what we've been told informs how we feel about things, which is why it's so, good to um, start working with that emotional energy too. So the mind creates the images, the thoughts, which in turn causes an emotional reaction. And then depending on what that emotional reaction is what is drawing into the G center. Does that make sense?
Okay. So you have the
Because
conception of whatever I keep using my hands, the conception of whatever thing it
mhm,
is that comes in, and
mhm,
then you're emotional, you respond to it in an emotional manner somehow, and then it makes its way to
yeah,
the G center.
the emotional response then calibrates the monopole,
There
basically,
we go.
and pulls things in for you to respond to in the physical world. And so say that's why they always tell you to like it's like think positively, but it's really more of feel. How do you feel? How do you choose to feel about things? And so that's why right now everything is so everybody's talking about your thoughts and your mindset and how you feel and everything, because it is really important, because you have to know what it is you think and feel about certain things, which is why some manifestation techniques just don't work for some people, because they're not getting to the root cause there of how it is they actually feeling about things. You can say things to yourself 100 times about being a millionaire, but if deep down you don't feel it, it's probably not going. It could eventually happen, but it could take a lot longer.
Yeah.
Anyways, things we're all working on. So it creates that emotional response, starts to draw things into your physical world that then you get to respond to through the energy of the root, the spleen, or the solar plexus, because that's where in our physical world where they're like, you're splenic, you're like,
Hmm.
yes or no, or sacral center, yes or no, or the solar plexus, how to, again, maybe have to wait a little bit longer to see if that's something you want to respond to. But so it's this really interesting process of thinking, feeling, and then drawing in, responding. Do I want this? Yes or no? Kind of thing.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and if you do, bring me more of it. Bring me lots more. What that all means then is that the more that you can calibrate your G center to this sense of well-being, it is going to keep attracting in things that feel good to you. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So like I said, there's 8 ways to activate this heart energy and attract what you want, because there's 8 gates. So we're going to look at the body graph. Well, we're going to talk about the body graph. Hopefully y'all out there have a copy of a body graph, if not your own, preferably your own, so you can see if you have any of these gates defined or not. And I guess I might as well just pull yours up because you don't know.
I don't actually have a copy of my own body graph.
Jesus.
There is a reason my title is Human Design Newbie. Thank you.
Okay, newbie. I say every episode, get a copy of your body graph and look at it.
Can you please send me a copy of my body graph? Because I don't know all of my birth details. Because, I mean, I was there, but I wasn't.
Surprised you weren't running the show. You kind of were, actually. You kind of were. You're like, nope, I need a little more time. Okay.
46 and
So
25.
when you look at the body graph, the G center is the diamond shape in the middle. It's either going to be white or it's going to be colored in yellow. That's the traditional colors for it, is yellow. And so if you have any of the 8 gates or channels defined, it is whether you are undefined or defined in the whole center. If you have gates defined or activated in that in the G center, it's a clue to how you can more consistently activate these heart energies to help calibrate your um, G center. Like, it's kind of a little cheat code. If you're undefined, that means you can work on any of these ways, which we all can and we
Mhm.
should, because they're all really important themes of how to really just be the best version of yourself, basically. And when I say best version, the most aligned version, not like there's bad version. It's just working with the good energies here. So let's start to the left on the body graph. You'll see gate 10. And gate 10 there is reaching down. Well, it can connect to the spleen and to the sacral center. But gate 10 is the gate of self love. Okay.
Oh,
So basically, it is the
cool.
love of self, really. And it's because if you love yourself, you'll attract to the relationships, opportunities, etc., that reflect this love for yourself. Um, and so I know this is one that probably a lot of people probably struggle with, because honestly, it's about, well, I mean, I just don't feel like we're really encouraged or taught to be like, I love myself, maybe as
No.
we're like little children. But I feel like there's just so much conditioning in this world away from like being proud of yourself. You know what I mean? Of like owning you're like, I love me. You used to people go around going, I love me. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like if someone is like says, "Oh, I love myself." You're like, "Wow, they're really conceited."
Really full of himself.
Yeah.
Which, that kind of energy is more in the will center of that materialistic kind of like self-importantness. But this is actually just like this loving yourself as you are, right? So really, if this is something you struggle with, is to really honestly like ask yourself, what do you love about yourself? What do I love about myself? Find things. I mean, they might be small things at first, like it could be very superficial things like, I like the color of my eyes, or, it sometimes it's not even a physical thing. It gets, kind of hard for people, but it might be like, oh, I like that maybe I struggle with this one. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to find things that aren't just physical. But I like that I'm a good friend, or I like that I'm a hard worker, or I
Yeah.
like, just try to find things about yourself that you actually love about yourself. I think all of these themes, these gates, also have very simple like statements you could start repeating to yourself that help calibrate that in a mantra sort of way. And this one would be, I am love, or even you say, I am loved, or you can say, I am love, or I love myself, and just see how that sits and feels. And so the more you can cultivate this sense of love, the more it's for yourself, the more you're going to attract things that are
Mhm.
loving as well, people as well. Because let me tell you, if you don't love yourself, you are not going to attract the right people in your life.
No. No, you
you're
will not.
so that's another one of those things to look at. Okay, moving on. Moving up towards gate 7, which the traditional name for is the army. And this is the
Okay.
self. Yeah, this is the self in interaction with other, in collaboration. And they say that this is kind of like where the energy of democracy is in
Mm.
this channel here, because it is a gate of for the self of empowerment. And realizing that you have just as much of a voice in the world as anybody else, and that you get to decide and you get to choose what is correct for you and what you want. You can decide what it is you want. It's your own power. And so, a mantra that can go with that is I decide. It's about not giving your power away to someone else to decide what's right for you. Hence that democracy piece.
I
And
decide.
yeah, I decide. And then, or you could say, I choose, or I am powerful. These are things that you could focus on to help strengthen that energy in those areas. Moving over to gate 1, which is a really powerful, important gate and energy in the chart, because it's, they say, the most yang, the most, or what do you say, yang energy. So it's the most masculine energy in the chart. And masculine is just more of that yang side, to the yin is the more feminine, it's the giving, receiving kind of thing. But this is a gate of self-expression, also called the creative. In quantum human design, it's called purpose. So this is the gate of personal self-expression as the individual. And this is another place where people have this real sense of mission. If they have this gate activated in their chart, this is another place where it really shows up, this push to really live out or find purpose. Because overall, this gate is about the creativity piece as an individual, as a human. It's like being your own creative self helps empower others to also be that way. But you ultimately have to find what it means for you to be who you are. You are what you are. I am what I am.
Green eggs and ham.
And that is literally the mantra. I am who I am. And so it's really the energy of realizing that who you are, what's your purpose here in life, is not what you do. It is literally who you be, or who you are. And so I am who I am is that voice of that gate. Moving over to gate 13. Were you going to ask me
number
something?
13. No.
No? Okay. Moving over to gate 13. This is the gate of the listener.
Ooh.
And it's also in quantum called the narrative, which I really like this gate. I don't have it, but I just like the way it's called the listener, because they say people that have this gate, people often tell them just their life stories all the time. People are always letting you know what their story is. But really, in this purpose of what we're talking about, G Center and calibrating the heart, this is about narrative and this is about story. And what that means is that when we talked about that creative process of what is the lens, the filter that you are creating from, right? That's a narrative. That's a story. Your beliefs are stories that you have told yourself or other people have told you that you've taken on to believe. This energy here is about creating whatever story you want it to be. And that also means looking back at your story and because I want to bring in the real key factor here is this is the gate that the energy of forgiveness is in, because they say that, say you carry a story of someone that has hurt you or has wronged you, and you've always had this story of, I am hurt by this person, therefore this is who I am. And this is energies of forgiveness is, well, that happened. You can forgive it so that you can move forward. Forgiveness is about writing a new story. It's about not letting those things define who you are moving forward. You get to choose again. You get to choose, and then you get to decide who you are, and you get to write that new story through gate 13 is that energy of forgiveness, having the capacity to change your past, which is really cool. I mean, this is something in A Course in Miracles too, because it's all about forgiveness work, is how literally you can, in your, I want to say in your mind, in your body, in your belief system, you can literally rewrite your past, because you can rewrite what you think about it and how you feel about it by forgiving it.
Did you know that your memories are just the last time you remembered it? So like
Hmm.
if you think back on a memory, it's just the last time you remembered it. So that's why
Hmm.
things get so like different if you're comparing memories with like a family member or a friend or
Hmm.
something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And not even to mention how skewed the perception is in the first place. So every time,
Yeah.
which, maybe one time we will do a more in-depth episode on EFT, because I've trained in that, which is what it is. EFT is tapping, and it helps
Right.
you work through um, some of this belief system, even serious traumas, because you take something that's happening now and you experience it as you tap on it, like you talk about it or whatever, you say it out loud. And it's amazing how it'll slowly, you'll be tapping on something that happened to you today. In certain instances, it's not always, you can do belief systems, all this stuff, but sometimes you got to do it in the moment. You're mad about something, whatever, and you don't want to be. So you could start tapping on something that, and then realize quite quickly it's because of something. It's the same feeling you've had that when you were like 7.
Hmm.
You find out it's the same story that informs every decision that you make. And when you start changing that narrative, like you said, think about it, and that, like what you said about your memories, well, it could start changing your past by that and
Hmm.
starting a new way and attracting new things in. So you let go of the old, attract in a new story. And so your mantra there would be, I can tell my own story. I am forgiving, or I am forgiveness, which I am going to tell you that I used to think when people talked about forgiveness, I always thought it was, oh, it just sounded like, this is very revealing. This sounded like being in a position of weakness, but it is like such strength to be able to
Hmm.
forgive.
Yeah.
I always say you don't have to forget, but you can forgive, because it's only holding yourself prisoner. Okay. Are you excited because you know what gate we're coming to next? You finally have a
Yes.
gate.
And I
Haley
have it
finally,
defined I have it defined by two things.
yes, Haley finally has a copy of her own bodygraph in front of her. So she's like, gate 25. Yes, gate 25 is next. Gate 25 connects over to the Will Center. Gate 25 is the love of spirit, or simply just referred to as the gate of spirit. And so this is the energy of being connected to spirit or source, and of being in service to something greater than ourselves. And it does connect to the will center, which is our center for like what is in this material world. And it
Hmm.
is connected to that gate 51, which is initiation. But it's about trusting source, Gus, whatever you'll call it, as your source for direction. It's about aligning with source, and being of making your life in service to something greater than you, which is spirit or source. So the more you can align with that energy of trusting that, it'll bring things in to support you, because you are aligning with source.
I don't, well, I just have a hard time seeing things in myself to begin with.
You have a hard time what?
Seeing things in myself to begin with.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, we all do. We all do. And I'll just, point out to you, you are 25, right?
Yes.
25. Okay. The next couple years, you're going to be approaching your first Saturn return as you approach 29. And gate 25 sits in two places in your chart. And one of them, well, it's interesting, because one is your south node. Okay. And so that's
Sure.
generally here what you're here to let go of what you've brought in. And it's also in your unconscious Saturn.
Oh.
And so this will be something that, if you have awareness of now before you reach this Saturn return, of maybe letting go more and letting Gus take the wheel, trusting that you will be um, you will be supported in all things through source. So aligning to that more. It's kind of timely that you start talking about all this stuff with your mom. Never talked about growing up. Um, but anyway, so the mantra there would be I trust source, I serve source, or I am serving. Just you're here to serve. Uh Gate 46, moving down and around, is
My other
the
one.
I have this one too, love of the body or embodiment. And it says we're designed to make choices that keep us physically vital and healthy. And when you love the body, like you honor the body, take care of your body, try to keep it healthy, it brings in positive experiences in your actual physical reality and physical form and things that help keep us physical, vital, and dynamic. And so, I mean, think about it. We are in physical bodies.
Hmm.
We can't do
They
this
are
journey
physical.
without them, right? I
No.
mean, when we don't have the body anymore, we're not here anymore.
Yes.
So, really moving the body, honoring the body, taking care of the body, eating well, moving it. I keep saying moving it. Like I
Moving
said, I
body.
have this gate as well, but this is something also, if you have this gate, really, and this is something I, since discovering all these things in human design, I have tried to pay attention to and notice more, is that when do you feel more connected? What makes you feel good? For me, I do a lot of times when I like got to get out of my head and or I'm like in a funk, I got to go for a walk.
Hmm.
I'll get outside and do something. About
I
you?
feel like when I'm like if I'm bored or I'm like I feel like I have a lot of shit that I need to do. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if I can just move some way, like even if it's just pacing pacing back and forth in the
Mm-hmm.
living room, but like if I can just get up and move, like I feel
Mm-hmm.
it feels less overwhelming or less
Yeah.
boring.
Moving the body, taking care of body. You do pretty good about trying to, eat right and healthy and take care of yourself to a certain point, like we all do.
As I had Chick-fil-A for lunch today.
I had Thai
So
food.
good. Oh,
Okay.
really want some
So
Thai food now.
yeah. So when you're not honoring the body in the physical form, or if you're just not embodied, like if you're always in your head or just ignoring the physical form, or if you're possibly burnt out, like you're just exhausted because you haven't been honoring yourself, this could often be where people are feeling stuck and they feel like nothing is coming their way and they're not getting any new opportunities. It's because to the monopole, to the world, it's like, or to the quantum, it's like, oh, you just don't have the energy for this. You're not prepared for this. Your body needs attention in order to carry out what it is you need to do. So you actually, in that sense, as close to you want to be like blocking yourself, would be that really the universe is like, oh, you need rest. And this is especially true for projectors, because projectors are always like, oh, there's no invitations. But if they've been like not honoring the unsustainable nature of their sacral energy and they just keep pushing, they're burnt out, the universe will literally say, like, you just need to rest and we'll hold these opportunities for you for when you're ready, but you're just not ready right now. So that's something that I've suggested to people before, and I've seen it work for them, that when they're feeling that really stuckness and things aren't working, to just really just pay attention to yourself and do things that are good for you and feel good and are restorative to your soul, to your body. And I think that's one of the hardest things to wrap our brains around, is that things, one mantra I have for myself is everything's always working out for me. And another one's like, I don't know what ought to be. And a lot has to do with timing, everything's timing. And so
Mhm.
you always feel like you're missing out or it's the wrong time or you're going to run out of time. That might be my open route. But I just have to remind everything is in divine timing. And if things are moving a little too slow to you, maybe not try to push more to make more happen, but just try to relax more and take care of yourself. Which brings us to the next gate, gate 2, which is
Wait, what
called,
was the mantra on that
oh,
one?
you're right. Your mantra would be I am vital, or I am vitality, or I love my body. Might be easier to say like I am vitality. I like that one. It makes you feel like vitality feels like strong and clean and like
I love my body feels very superficial.
I have played around with that before. We're so much negative self-talk we don't realize is even happening,
Hmm.
to even like flip the script is be like instead of going, oh, my knee hurts, be like, I love you, knee.
Yeah, there's one girl I follow on Instagram that she says more instead of like, oh, I love the way my body looks. It's more like I love the ability that my body provides me. Like I love
Exactly.
what it can do for me, like what it allows me to do.
I know, and especially as generators, especially take it for granted because we have this sacral energy that keeps doing more. But I've also found that, which I'm also paying attention to, is how my body feels in different environments. I think with that channel, or that gate in particular, is how it actually feels doing different things in different environments. It's another clue to like what's appropriate for you. It's really how your body feels. Okay. So like I said, restoring vitality, right, can help you bring
Mhm.
opportunities. But so I said, instead of pushing more, maybe receiving more, which brings us to the next gate, gate two, keeper of the keys.
Ooh.
This gate of allowing, or the receptive, it's called sometimes. So in this gate, we are told that we are designed by virtue of our existence to receive support when we need it. This is gate two. Remember, gate one was the most yang. This is the most yin.
Mm,
And it is about receiving and
okay.
allowing yourself to receive, which is a really difficult one. I mean, we all think that, well, of course I can receive, but do we really? I mean, especially for anybody. I mean, I think that we equate receiving with earning something. Like we have to earn it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's because there's nothing in our culture that says things just are there for you to provide for you.
Yeah.
So
It's like
much.
if you get something for free, you're like, what is the catch here?
Mhm. Exactly. Or what about even receiving a compliment? How
I
hard is
hate
it to receive a
receiving a
compliment?
compliment.
How often do you explain away a compliment? Do you?
Or how like, oh, I love your dress. Oh, thanks. It has pockets.
Or you look nice today. Oh no, I
Oh.
don't, or
Oh,
oh,
or like when we were at the wedding and the rehearsal dinner and they're like, "Oh, you like you dress." They were saying it to me and they're like, "Oh, you just look so good. These things on your dress just so pretty." And I was like, "Oh, you should see me the other 90% of the time."
just trying to be relatable. Which really you should see her now. She's
Wow.
beautiful. It was a really cool dress you were wearing. But
It
but
was
yeah,
really, really
so even
pretty.
just allowing yourself to receive, in the sense that knowing that if you are now, this is the two is a channel that is with the 14 off the sacral, and the sacral, like the 14-2 channel is supposed to be like this really fortuitous energy in the chart. It's called the beat because it takes that pure sacral energy that is just straight to the G center, but the two gives it direction, is what they say. And so
Mm,
you have to be able to receive what is coming your way. And how you do this is to ground yourself in gratitude, because gratitude is just really observing what in your life feels good to you and allowing yourself to receive that. And having a gratitude journal is one of the greatest things I can say do towards starting to calibrate that monopole, because it is really looking at what you have already received. I mean,
mhm.
a practice of, even before you go to bed, they say the things
Write three things. I tried tried that for a bit. It's like you're supposed to right before, well, not
mhm.
right before, but just before you go to bed, like just write down three things you're grateful for. And I just felt like they were always the same things. I didn't,
Well, that's okay.
I
It
don't
doesn't
know.
always have to be different. I agree with you, but I think we overlook a lot of the things that we can have a lot of gratitude for. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, just my bed, even though I wake up every morning going, I need a new mattress. But then when I go to bed, I'm always like, I really love my pillows. I love my comfy bed. I mean, anytime I'm feeling sorry for myself or worried about the future or, got all this angst, what am I going to do? I literally am like, you are laying in this big ass bed by yourself in your room, air conditioned, soft sheets, you know,
Quiet
you're
outside.
safe. You're safe. Allow yourself to receive all that you already have because we're so focused on what we don't have and trying to go get instead of looking at how much we have and allow more of that to come to us. So it really is about recognizing what you already have and saying, yes, please, more of that.
Yes, please, more, sir.
And realizing that we are designed to be supported by doing the things that feel good for us or just being here and being happy. We're designed to be supported. So mantra would be I allow, I am supported, or I even use like gratitude. I am gratitude. I know it sounds weird at times, but just try them out. Or you can just, use that word gratitude. Like you said, it feels good.
Hmm.
Hmm. Anyways, okay. So last one, gate 15, the gate of extremes.
Oh.
Also in quantum, she calls it the gate of compassion. So it is their energy of compassion for yourself and others, but really for yourself is really important here. Because
Hmm.
I think we can be very compassionate towards other people, but I think we don't give ourselves a break enough.
Yeah.
Very hard on ourselves, right?
Hmm.
And so this is an easy path to heart opening because it really, what they say, if you're feeling sorry for yourself or you need a mood lifter, what do they tell you to do? Go help someone else, right?
Oh, okay.
Oh, you've never heard that?
I don't think so.
Another
Don't think
gratitude
so.
builder there. Yeah. No, that's one thing they say, if you're like really, really, if you just can't get out of your own like story of what was me, go help someone else. Or just you want to lift your mood. Because it does just tend when you know that you are helping someone or in some way serving someone else, it does kind of tend to make you feel better and give you more connection to that heart center piece. Um, and so sharing, giving, being compassionate to others is a clear path, a way to help calibrate that heart center for you. So a mantra there being I am compassionate or I share. So all right. So basically, just to recap, to these 8 energies around the G center, that if you're trying to calibrate your monopole, bringing those things into you, into that feel good energy of basically literally these are the cheat codes in life that tells you if you are focused on the highest expression of these 8 things, that being self-love, self-empowerment, your individuality, your unique contribution in life, your narrative, forgiveness, your connection to spirit, your love for the body, your ability to feel
Receive.
gratitude and feel supported and receive all that is coming to you and be compassionate to others. Just living in those, or at least trying to tap
Hmm.
into the higher expressions of those energies as much as you can. I mean, you can almost feel it now as you talk about it. You can feel it in the heart center when you just really focus in the heart and really you can feel this expansive feeling in your heart. I think I mentioned earlier we were talking about the heart resonance. There's the Heart
Hmm.
Math Institute, does a lot of work. You can Google heart math. You can find meditations on YouTube. There's a really good one, which basically it's just doing a meditation where you literally, if you have to place your hands on your heart, if you're not used to focusing on your heart center, because most time meditation, they're always telling you to focus right here in the ajna in your mind, but more breathing into the heart and breathing out, like imagining it there, it literally just starts to expand and you can feel that energy. And to me, it just feels like joy. I focus on the word joy a lot because I think for me, it might not work for other people. Some people it's peace or love, but anything that helps feel that expansiveness in the heart, that's calibrating that monopole to bring more of that in for you. And like I said, today we talked about those cheat codes to I use the word cheat codes, like the words cheat codes, like I'm so familiar with using cheat codes. I know that's like a gamer thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the cheat
Sort of.
code is cheating the system. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not really a cheat if, I mean, it's laid right out for us. It's like, here, focus on this. Some of us,
Yeah.
you know, have a clearer path, like I need to focus on what it means to receive and to, be in the body and love the body. And you have to be more connected to source and body. So, it's very interesting. But anytime you're feeling like you need to calibrate that heart, just focusing on those energies there. So if you're feeling any fear around making decisions, feel like you don't have a purpose or direction, your worry, anxiety is keeping you from doing what you want, for being yourself, or questioning your lovability, look at the energies here and see how you are expressing these themes. Do you love yourself? Are you empowering yourself? Are you being yourself? What beliefs do you hold? Are you connected to spirit? Do you love the body? Are you allowing goodness in? And, are you compassionate with yourself and others? So that's the gist of it, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked this one.
Yeah. So I encourage everyone to, if they weren't already doing that, to go ahead and look at their body graph, contemplate those things, and see what starts happening. If anything, just start with that, 5 minutes a day, focusing on breathing in and out through the heart. It's a doozy. It's a good one, though. What I mean is
Medically, that sounds
doozy.
really weird.
Well, yeah. Well, I've seen some interesting graphics. They say, do you know what a Taurus is? Like
I
energetically?
don't think so.
Um, Karen's always showing these graphics of the resonance field around the heart. It's like this feedback loop almost. It like goes out, comes around, goes back in, comes out, goes around.
Hmm.
And um they say like the energetic field around the earth kind of does the same thing between the poles. It kind of goes out and around and loops
Well,
around.
yeah, if you do look like at like the
That's a
magnetic field.
Taurus. Yeah, that's a Taurus.
Oh.
It's kind of this looping system that feeds back into itself. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So
Yeah.
they say that the heart's magnetic field looks the same as the
Oh.
earth, which they'll probably see it's probably the universe and further and further. And don't forget, they haven't discovered yet, but they will. The prediction is they will discover that a monopole is what the source of
Gravity.
gravity. I mean, when this system was delivered, they didn't have the proof of existence of monopoles, and now they do, and everything else so far he said is, I think they're
It's
onto something here.
come to fruition.
Yeah. So that's the G Center. Hope y'all found some value with this today, and I hope it helps you find direction. And if you want any help around maybe decoding your own G Center, of course, you can book a reading with me. We can go over that together. So links in the show notes if you want to do that. So any further thoughts or questions today, Haley?
I don't think so.
I'm always waiting for a big doozy of a question and be like, I don't know. Let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap this thing.
That's a great question. I'll get back to you.
I'll answer that on next week's.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and don't forget also, I'm glad you said that. In the show notes, if you are listening, there is a place in there that you can ask us questions if you want to. We have a spot down there. You can leave me take you to a forum where you can leave a question that you might have about human design, and maybe we'll talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have a good night, and
well, they may not be listening to this at night.
I was talking to you.
Oh, hi.
You have a good night. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.